I actually think if this was ruled out, we'd be accused of finding ways to rule out goals.
And people talk about conspiracy theories. This was a really difficult check. I have to say that, in my opinion, all these checks were correct, and it was right that the goal was allowed.
The graphic displaying why it is offside that goes out on social media causes all of your problems. It is useless. It's rubbish. Fabian Schär comes sliding in. It's a late challenge. He made clear contact with Foden after the ball had gone. Why was it not a penalty?
If I was refereeing that game, Sam, I don't think I would give a penalty.
The referee and the assistant thought that it struck the arm of Jesus. There's no conclusive evidence to overturn that.
Referees don't guess. I have never guessed on a football field. It's something that you never do.
Saka, Zubamendi and Trossard in offside positions, of which a couple of them at least are blocking the goalkeeper's line of sight. It was deemed there were no offside players in the line of vision of the goalkeeper.
I have to say, Sam, I thought this was offside. I was surprised when the flag didn't go up, impacting the ability to play the ball. I mean, you could anyone from three, wasn't it, really? I think it should have been disallowed.
Hello everyone, welcome to Men in Black, our weekly podcast where we delve into the most controversial refereeing decisions, dissect them and pass judgment. We're here with former Premier League referee Chris Foy. I'm Sam Matterface, and Chris gets the opportunity today to pass judgment on subjective offside calls galore, messy goals, when it's okay to touch the ball with your hands in the penalty area, when it's okay not to get the ball and take the man in the penalty area, and a whole lot more. Pep Guardiola made a beeline for the referee Sam Barrett at the end of the Newcastle United-Manchester City game on Saturday night. He wasn't happy with one or two decisions, so I think we'll start there.
Oh my word! Newcastle 2, Man City 1! Corner comes in, headed back across. Gramerez hit the bar. Question mark whether Gramerez is offside. Harvey Barnes didn't matter. He backheeled it in from 2 yards out, and that was how it finished.
Newcastle United 2, Manchester City 1. The winning goal came from a set piece. Manchester City players believed that Bruno Guimaraes was in an offside position when Voltemade heads the ball. There was also a little bit of a discussion as whether or not Voltemade hitched a ride on the back of the defender, whether or not that Gianluigi Donnarumma was fouled or obstructed in the build-up to the goal. The VAR looked at it for a very long time and decided that the goal would stand. It was checked. All of the onside positions were looked at, and it was decided that the goal was okay. Let's start with the factual decision that's caused the most controversy, the offside. The graphics have caused much debate on social media, with complaints that the wrong frames are being chosen, many people putting their own images out there claiming Bruno is offside. I'm going to give you the opportunity to clear it up for us, Chris, because I've got a bit of a rant coming about this.
All right, a rant. Goodness me. Yeah, well, I mean, what a game of football that was. And it's a shame, really, that afterwards, all we see on social media is image after image after image and line after line after line, and people talk about conspiracy theories. This was a really difficult check for Craig Pawson, make no bones about it. Situations like this you can't check them quickly because there's so much to unpick. Was there a foul? Was there two offsides? Yes, there was. What goal was scored, etc. We move on. I have to say that, in my opinion, all these checks were correct, and it was right that the goal was allowed, because when we looked at the two players, they were both onside, so I don't have a problem with that at all. What I have a problem with at the moment, Sam, is social media, and I have to say at the weekend, I switched it off yesterday because I just couldn't look at it anymore. I'm just looking at guff when it doesn't need to be like that.
Okay, all right. Well, I think the reason that you're looking at guff and the reason that there's lots of conspiracy theories is because of the way that it's presented is inadequate, really. And let me explain that. The first thing you see is Donnarumma immediately complaining as the ball crashes the net. He thinks there's an offside offence or that he is impeded. Now, Voltemade gets above Nunez. His hands are on the Portuguese defender, but it's not a foul, in my opinion. That towering header finds Bruno, who I think looks offside, but that's the key here. I don't think he is, and we'll prove that with the graphic in just a few moments, or not. He cracks the bar. It comes out to Harvey Barnes, a flick of the heel, which is brilliant. It goes under the radar how brilliant that little movement is that he sets up the opportunity to smash it into the net. The goal is given on field, and then there's a lengthy VAR review, which we've already mentioned. Voltemade, not a foul, and if it is, Guardiola on Bruno is 2. ultimately, Diaz plays Bruno onside because of the top of the T-shirt line. Now, firstly, I think the graphic displaying why it is offside that goes out on social media causes all of your problems. It is useless. It's rubbish. Secondly, the T-shirt line is at the top of the arm, top of the shoulder, level with the crease of your armpit. If you're watching on YouTube, here's the graphic that is published in the laws of the game. Look at my shoulder here. This is where it is supposed to be. It is not the bottom of the line of the T-shirt. I know that on the graphic, it looks like that is where they are measuring it. And it is an appalling graphic for that reason. But they aren't. They aren't. Follow the line up through the arm, and that is the top of the shoulder. Therefore, it is offside. But here's the issue. I don't think the semi-automated offside technology can possibly map that, because no algorithm in the world has all the data and enough measurements of every single player and the sophistication to apply them to a match situation. When we know that the T-shirt line is different for everybody. So it's different for Chris, it's different for me, it's different for Voltemada, it's different for Ruben Diaz, because his shoulders are slightly bigger and thicker, and the crease of the armpit is different for every different human. That's just the way it is. So the reason it takes so long, in my opinion, is that they have to manually decide where the T-shirt line is, I think. And it's crap, because the line and that goes up through just doesn't look clear enough. And because it's on the line, because it's so border, it's so sort of marginal, that creates the debate. And that's why you need a strong graphic to convince everybody that this is the right decision. Now, there has to be a demarcation point, and of course it's really tight. So there are going to be people who think, oh, you should have ruled this out. I actually think if this was ruled out, we'd be accused of finding ways to rule out goals. And that's why I'm happy with the process.
Yeah, I think knowledge is key here, isn't it? Where the arm starts and where the arm finishes. I think what people need to understand as well with this, Sam, I think there's a really good video on the Premier League website with Chris Kavanagh, who talks us through the process of how this works and semi-automated, and people should actually have a look at that. I think moving forward, it'd be prudent or beneficial if, we could get to Stockley and have a look at how it works. I think that'd be really good as well. That would help us. We get you in that hot seat. You might not be as noisy then, but fair play to Craig Pawson on this one, because there was so much to check. And as we say, with football, there's so many trends and themes. We're going to talk about Leeds and Aston Villa in a little while, aren't we? And we've got a similar incident where there's so much to unpick. But as I said, I think the secret here is to trust the process.
Okay, so we're saying okay, goal, no problem. Just, I think, a little bit difficult to try and sell it with the images that were put out on social media. Let's talk about another incident in this game. Phil Foden receives the ball inside the penalty area, takes a shot, goes wide. As he releases the ball, the Newcastle defender Fabian Schär comes sliding in. It's a late challenge. He made clear contact with Foden after the ball had gone. Why was it not a penalty?
It wasn't a penalty because Sam Barrett, the referee, didn't give a penalty. And I am going to get absolutely pummeled again here, aren't I? Because if I was refereeing that game, Sam, I don't think I would give a penalty. And for every person who says it's a penalty, I've found another one who said it wasn't. And there is contact on Foden. I see that. He shoots. There's contact on top of the boot. Schär's trying to play the ball. He's in a controlled action. Where can he go? Now, a lot of people will say, Chris, that's a penalty, and I understand that. But a lot of people will say, no, it's not. So I'm going to get clobbered. I understand that as well. But Craig Pawson, who's obviously had a busy afternoon up at Newcastle, has looked at this. The referee at the time was in a really good position. He looks at it and he feels as though he's not made a clear error, and they stay with the on-field decision because they didn't feel as though that challenge was reckless or it was a serious foul play challenge. But that's my opinion, and that's the way I see it.
Okay, so I'm gobsmacked by that because there's no doubt that he doesn't get the ball. He does make contact with Foden after the ball is gone, and immediately I thought penalty. And everybody I was in the pub with on Saturday night was going, that's a penalty, that's a penalty. And in fact, I did wonder if he was reprieved because he slightly tried to pull out, but I was really clutching at straws. I mean, it looks to me for all the world that is a penalty. So is it okay to foul someone after the ball has gone? Is that what we're saying?
No, we're not. I mean, listen. In my opinion, Sam, that's a fleeting glance. And if Sam Barrett gives a penalty on field, the VAR would look at that and go check complete. I think what you've got to understand as well is when you're in the pub watching a match through the bottom of a pint glass, you can get a bit clouded sometimes. So just remember that moving forwards. But listen, that's my opinion. You know, if I'm Sam Barrett in that position on Saturday refereeing that game, would I have given a penalty? No, I wouldn't. And people say, Chris, you've got it completely wrong. I understand that as well. But a lot of people are saying, no, just give the goal kick. And you'll hear many referees say that as well. This is one that will divide opinion. Is it a clear and obvious error? Is it a howler? No, it's not. They stayed with the on-field decision. And I'll take what flack comes my way.
Well, you're going to get quite a lot, I think. And let's move on to the handball by Malik Thiaw. Jeremy Doku drives into the penalty box on the left-hand side and unleashes a shot towards the goal. The shot's blocked by Malik Thiaw. The ball does definitely come off of the arm, but his arm is tucked into his body, even though his hand is up in a bit of an awkward position. What did you make of this one? I mean, I thought it was just a little bit too close, this. Doku is about 2 yards away. Thiaw is sort of twisting to try and keep out the way. His hands are really tucked into his body. Are you saying no penalty here? Or are you going back to James Tarkowski on opening weekend and saying, oh, there was a little bit of leaning?
No, this is completely different, isn't it? What it is in this situation is the ball does strike the hand, but it's very close into his body. You know, if you look at where the hand is, actually in the body line. It's very close. I just don't see a penalty. I'd have been gobsmacked if a penalty had been given in that situation, Sam.
Okay, have we done enough on Newcastle against Manchester City? Is there anything else we want to go through? Pick any other decision apart? Was the full-time whistle okay? Pep Guardiola wasn't very happy at the end.
Yeah, it was every throw-in from the right position. Did we play enough? Did we add enough time on? No, I mean, listen, I've actually refereed that game a few times, Newcastle Man City, and it's always a great game, and that was one that I really enjoyed watching.
Pep did go on the pitch, didn't he, and have a word with Sam Barrett at the end. What's that like as a referee?
You're more concerned when the camera operator comes on and puts the camera in your face than a manager. Obviously, he's come on to shake his hand and exchange pleasantries, which sometimes managers do.
Diplomatic Chris Foy, who, when he leaves Men in Black, will be working in the Foreign Office in some embassy across the world. Right, okay, let's move on.
A little VAR check here, Mickey, because is Ndoye standing in an offside position, and is he blocking the sight lines of the goalkeeper, Alisson?
The goal actually stands. I'm so happy that goal stands because it's a great finish.
Forest have just had the ball in the back of the net again. It's Igor Jesus who puts it in.
And it hits Jesus' knee before it actually makes contact with his arm. That the foul has been given. The goal doesn't stand. What a huge let-off.
Liverpool 0, Nottingham Forest 3. The referee is Andy Madley. The VAR is James Bell. Okay, so Nottingham Forest take the lead through Murillo. It comes from a set piece. Dan Ndoye, though, seems to be stood in an offside position for the goal. It did prompt a VAR check. And of course, this has extra resonance because of the Andy Robertson decision at Manchester City a couple of weeks prior to it. The referee's call of goal was checked and confirmed by the VAR. It was deemed that Ndoye was not in the line of vision of Alisson and did not make an action that impacted an opponent. It is controversial because of that previous incident, as I mentioned. Do you know, the other week, you know that Manchester City decision, Chris? The 5-person key match incident panel voted 3-2 that the on-field decision to disallow the goal was incorrect, but also found that the VAR was correct not to intervene. So where do we stand on this one? It sounds like these sorts of incidents where you've got the sort of subjective nature of employing the or applying the law of the game in terms of what constitutes interfering with the ability of the opponent to play the ball is quite divisive.
Yeah, I mean, hugely subjective, isn't it? We talked about the Virgil van Dijk goal, and I think we agreed that when we talked about that the following day on the podcast just before the international break, that yes, it should have been a goal. We all felt that. This one was interesting. When you see it from behind the goal, it doesn't really give you a clear view. When you see it from where the kicker is, the goalkeeper's got a clear view of the kicker and the ball, albeit we've got the Nottingham Forest player Ndoye in an offside position who just stands there. I think this was a goal. I was happy with this one because of the angle that I saw from where the ball was on the kicker, that Alisson has a clear view of that. So that he doesn't really... the attacker is in an offside position doesn't impact the goalkeeper's ability on this situation by clearly obstructing his line of vision. I was happy that this was a goal. It didn't pose me too many problems at all. I didn't think it was controversial.
Okay. Jesus' handball was the reason why the 35th minute second Nottingham Forest goal was ruled out. Igor Jesus and the Liverpool defender Ibrahima Konate end up tangling as the ball comes into the penalty area. Konate, whilst going to ground, plays the ball against Jesus' body. It pops up and it looks as if it hits him on the chest. The referee and the assistant thought that it struck the arm of Jesus. There's no conclusive evidence to overturn that, so the VAR confirms the on-field decision and agreed with Andy Madley's decision to disallow the goal. I don't think that there was an accidental handball prior to a player scoring a goal here. Could you see that?
I was watching this game and looked at it and thought, you know what, when he's given that on field, which he did, Andy Madley, and this is the key with this situation, he's given that decision for handball. It looks like it gets the top of his arm from what I've seen from the pictures, and the goal is disallowed. Quite clearly, James Bell, the VAR, will check it, and we've been down this road before. He found no conclusive evidence to say that it wasn't, and quite clearly as the goal scorer, albeit, you know, even if it's an accidental handball, then the goal was disallowed. So you have to go with the on-field decision in this situation and clearly checked by the VAR, James Bell.
Andy Madley was looking around at a Liverpool defender at the point. He was trying to sort of glance to see if he could see the incident. That was the moment the ball struck the upper body of Jesus. Is it fair to say that he guessed or he got advice from his assistant? And is it therefore a difficult decision to swallow? I mean, look, ultimately it makes no difference to the game because Nottingham Forest won out 3-0 in the end. However, this could have been a crucial moment in the game.
Yeah, I mean, all goals are crucial in football matches, aren't they? And we don't know if he did receive information from his assistant, and they don't always, you know, they don't always wave a flag for a foul. Sometimes they'll do it down the communications kit. But come back to your original point about guessing. Referees don't guess. I have never guessed on a football field. It's something that you never do. You can only judge on what you see. And sometimes if you get it wrong, then you've got to take that on the chin. But you can't guess, Sam. Never guess.
Okay, let's move on to Arsenal-Tottenham.
And it's Eze again, and it's absolutely dreadful defending from Tottenham. They let him waltz into space on the edge of the area, and I think Vicario could do better as well. It's Arsenal 2, Tottenham 0.
Arsenal 4, Tottenham Hotspur 1. The referee's Michael Oliver, the VAR is Stuart Atwell here in the North London derby. And what a North London derby it was for Arsenal fans. I mean, it would have been good if Tottenham had actually turned up. The good news is Eze did. In fact, he scored 3 goals. But was there a potential offside in the 41st minute when he scored? Because he receives the ball, skipped past a couple of challenges, fired a low shot through a crowded penalty area. Now, I've seen a still of this and looked at it in full speed. And it does look as if in front of Guillermo Vicario, there is quite a few players. I think it's Saka, Zubimendi and Trossard in offside positions, of which a couple of them at least are blocking the goalkeeper's line of sight. Now, look, Vicario doesn't moan about it, probably because he's so annoyed with the fact that his defenders didn't bother putting in a tackle, that he's more furious about that than he is with the referee. But the referee's goal call was checked and confirmed by VAR. It was deemed there were no offside players in the line of vision of the goalkeeper, which is a little bit difficult to sell when you look at it from a still image behind the goal, Chris.
Yeah. Certainly in the margins, this one, isn't it? When
Not really.
No, let me finish, Sam. Let me finish. You've gone early. Don't go early. So clearly when the shot comes in, you mentioned Saka, Zubimendi, Trossard, and when the ball sort of gets towards Vicario, he gets a hand to it. I have to say, Sam, I thought this was offside. I was surprised when the flag didn't go up for offside and Michael Oliver didn't get the opportunity to look at it because obviously it is subjective, with it being line of vision. I think impacting the ability to play the ball. I mean, you could anyone from 3, wasn't it really? I think it should have been disallowed. I don't think that was a goal. I think it was offside.
We've had a real spate of these incidents, haven't we, in recent
Unbelievable,
weeks?
Isn't it? Unbelievable.
It's almost like a theme, isn't it? They've come back like long throws. Is that because people were standing in offside positions, or is it because we're having a lot more of these set play attacks that are dominating the Premier League? So therefore, you find, I mean, this wasn't from a set play, but I think that sort of happens more from set plays, doesn't it?
It's a really good point because, you can be in an offside position now, can't you? And as long as you're not getting involved in active play, then you're not committing any offence. So teams will look at all the teams now, Sam, in the Premier League. What's everybody got? They've got a set piece coach, haven't they? And everybody's looking at how you can get those small margins, those small gains to score a goal. So you're often going to see people in offside position. It just goes to show how difficult being an assistant referee can be in the modern game.
Okay, let's move on. That was Arsenal, Tottenham, and we've got Leeds, Aston Villa to get our teeth into next. Leeds 1, Aston Villa 2. The referee here is Rob Jones. The VAR is Paul Tierney. There's a very tight offside call on Gabriel Gudmundsson and Lucas Mecha, and a potential foul on Emi Martinez. This is in the 8th minute of the game, and it puts Leeds 1-0 up. Now, it's a deep free kick. We're swinging into the penalty area of Aston Villa. The Leeds midfielder, Anton Stack, challenges the Villa goalkeeper, Emi Martinez. It's an aerial ball in the 6-yard box. Do you know what? Martinez doesn't do enough for me. That's not a foul. The Villa players protest that he did foul Martinez, preventing him from cleanly catching the ball. I'm not having that. You can tell me otherwise in just a moment. There were 2 potential checks for offsides, a check on Gudmundsson, who kept the free kick alive at the back post, and a check on Lucas Mecha, who was standing close to the goal line when the ball rebounded off him and into the net. Now, the referee's call of goal was checked and confirmed by VAR, with Gudmundsson adjudged to have been in an onside position in the build-up. The VAR also checked the decision of no offside offence against Mecha, with it deemed he did not impact Martinez after Stack had played the ball, and the contact on Martinez prior to the goal was also deemed not to be a foul. I agree with absolutely everything here. There's so much to unpick, but let's go in order. Foul, and then the 2 offside players. What do you think?
No foul. I mean, my lasting memory of looking at that yesterday was at one point, Martinez's boot was so high, I didn't understand what he was doing at one point. But there was no foul on the goalkeeper. As you quite rightly say, we know about contact. It's a normal part of football. And as you say, the ball ricochets, it's back in the net, it's in the back of the net, and it's a goal. So quite clearly, we've got to pick up the other bits and pieces. Was there a foul? No, there wasn't. Was there an offside? Was the ball kept in play? We're unpicking. And the VAR, Paul Tierney, and his assistant on this occasion, Ian Hussin, had a lot to do. And I think when you look at it, they've gone through it chronologically, and they've got that decision right, and it was a goal. I'd have been very surprised if it was disallowed.
I agree with you, and I think it was, and actually, wasn't that slow, really, was it? I mean, I think it was 2.5 minutes, something like that. But they got to the right decision. There was lots to go through.
There was a lot in there, Sam, in that particular instance, because when the ball's in the back of the net and we're checking, we had 2 players on the floor who required treatment as well. So you've really got to concentrate on what you're doing, and fair play to for getting that one right.
The issue here, though, again, is the use of the official graphic. And if you're watching on the YouTube channel, the official graphic that you can see there is a little bit spurious. And this is why. And our producer, Joe, our technical wizard, is now zooming in so that you can see that Leeds player's foot. And on this particular graphic that they published, the Leeds player's foot appears to be in front of the Aston Villa player, which isn't helpful, is it, Chris?
No, it's not. It's one for the semi-automated team to reflect on. I think if you look at the image, I think there's a bit of a pointy bit on the boot, isn't there, which perhaps confuses people. But as I said to you before, Sam, I trust the process. I was more than comfortable with that. This will be one that they will reflect on in regard to imagery, because what happens is we have a pile-on, don't we? We have a conspiracy theory, and I hate that phrase, conspiracy theory, because at the end of the day, the decision's right, and let's just move on. Let's not dwell on this.
And that's okay for you to say, because you understand the process. You've been through it, and you've spent time in the VAR room. You spent time with VAR personnel. You know that this decision has been made in good faith. But if you are trying to sell it to the general public via the use of social media, you have to make sure that what you present to them is 100% bulletproof, and this isn't. I don't understand why you would have a graphic that could be interpreted in a different way to how you want people to understand it. The whole idea of putting the graphic out is to clear up why this is such a marginal call. If you put out a graphic which clouds people's judgment even further and invites scrutiny, what's the point of putting the graphic out? It's an absolute waste of time. You are fueling a conspiracy theory agenda rather than trying to push back at it. And I think the issue here again is a bit like with the Ruben Dias one. The line goes up to the T-shirt line, but unless you download the image, which I've done, and zoom in, which I'm doing right now, and actually look at the line and follow the line from the bottom of the floor to the top of the Aston Villa player's arm, you can see it just emerging at what we call the T-shirt line, out the back of it. But you have to really zoom in to see that. Meanwhile, you've got a Leeds United player with thighs the size of tree trunks. I don't understand how that's turned out. And a boot that looks like some sort of medieval shoe. I mean, I don't understand that either. And it seems to be on the line and slightly ahead of where the point is measured for the Aston Villa arm. So that is why there's confusion. And I think all of that needs sorting out. A little bit of shading, a slightly different type of graphic design would clear that up. This doesn't work.
Well, I think what we've got to do, as I said, is we trust the process, and hopefully that moving forward, we get a slight improvement in that. I think that's important. And what we don't want is conspiracy theories, and that doesn't help us when we know that these decisions are made accurately. But as I said, communication's key on this, and moving forward, that's what we want to see more of for sure.
Second incident in this game, Calvert-Lewin had a disallowed goal for handball after 77 minutes. Dan James, brilliant break down the right-hand side, real rapid speed, plays a really sharp low cross towards Calvert-Lewin in the centre. I think the goalkeeper gets a nudge on the ball and it comes off the body of Calvert-Lewin and then flicks his hand. I mean, this is a real annoying one, isn't it? Because actually, you know, he doesn't mean to touch it with his hand, but it comes off him and goes in. And the laws of the game, that's fairly straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's factual. You score a goal with your hand or arm, even if it's accidental. But it gives us clarity, doesn't it, with handball? People moan about handball day in, day out. We always do, but on this situation, there's nowhere to go. And if you look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he knew, and he accepts it because that is the way it's written down now.
Sorry, are we in a good place with handball this week?
Yeah, we're in a very good place with handball this week, Sam.
Okay, well, we'll go to Turf Moor in a few moments and find out if that's the case. First of all, Bournemouth, West Ham. Bournemouth 2, West Ham 2. Thomas Bramall, the referee. The VAR is Michael Oliver. The most obvious red card of the weekend, possibly this one, but it wasn't. Max Kilman, denial of a goal-scoring opportunity, possibly for a handball, as Evan Nilsson drives into the box towards goal. West Ham defender slides in, attempts to block the ball. Whilst he's sliding, it deflects off of Kilman's outstretched trailing arm. The penalty's awarded against West Ham for handball. Marcus Tavernier converts it. This sparks a bit of a comeback for Bournemouth. Penalty stands, but no red card. Why not?
It's a possible denial of a goal-scoring opportunity, Sam, not an obvious one. And I'll explain why. Obviously, it's given on field by Thomas Bramall, a really good spot, actually, because it's something we don't see very often. And he points to the spot for handball. But when the ball is handled, there's a covering defender. There's a defender who's actually moving round the back of the goalkeeper, so he's beyond the goalkeeper as well. There's too much going on there with defenders, and we know what the criteria is. Is it likely to regain in possession? We understand that direction of travel and the number of covering defenders. It's cluttered in there with defenders. Brilliant detection to spot it, but it's not a clear red card for me. Now, this is obviously checked by the VAR as a potential. The VAR on this occasion was Michael Oliver. He's looked at it, and he's obviously concurred with what I'm saying, that there's enough defenders there to make it possible rather than obvious.
Okay, so no red card for you. Certainly the Bournemouth fans were up in arms about it, but that's one that we'll chalk up to experience. Let's move on to Turf Moor, where there was quite an interesting handball incident. Burnley 0, Chelsea 2. Peter Banks is the referee on the stricter end of the refereeing spectrum. Rob Jones is the VAR. Chelsea goalkeeper Rob Sanchez appears to take a goal kick, does take a goal kick, passing the ball out to Trevor Chalobah, the defender inside the penalty area. Chalobah then strangely decides to go down and put his hand on the ball and stop it and then restarts play. Seemingly, I think he thinks he's taking the goal kick. He didn't realise that Sanchez had already started play. Now, the VAR doesn't intervene here. The referee doesn't give a penalty. There's no explanation to get into because they just play on. Now, there's a similar incident in the Champions League last season when the Aston Villa centre-back Tyrone Mings restarts play against Club Brugge after it had already been started by his goalkeeper. He put his hand on the ball. It led to a penalty from Hans Vernaken. There was another incident in the Champions League in 23-24 when Gabriel wasn't punished in the game against Bayern Munich. There is different interpretations of this across Europe and different events. Sometimes there's a bit of common sense employed here. What saves Chalobah here? Is it the fact that Sanchez doesn't spot the ball properly before kicking it, so it looks like he might just be nudging it, or is he just a little bit lucky?
Well, is he taking the goal kick, or is he just knocking it to Chalobah just to actually take the goal kick? I think what you've got to have here, Sam, is a bit of sense and sensibility with this situation, and I think we've got a really good understanding of that. I think what people haven't picked up on the other side of the goal area, there was another Chelsea player, Tosin, and when the ball was sort of kicked, there was a Burnley player, Fleming, was making his way into the penalty area. Now, if he's leaving, that's fine, but because he's moving in into the penalty area, then he's got one thing on his man, and he's obviously going to challenge the opponent. So I thought this was a really good piece of refereeing by Peter Banks, and I think it would be a really difficult situation for me to sit here and explain why he gave a penalty, because, wow, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? I think, we've got a really good outcome here, a really positive piece of refereeing. Oh, I know where you're going. Come on. Let's have it.
I mean, he's a little bit lucky because he's none the wiser, but I did think that Sanchez knew exactly what he was doing. He was playing the ball, and Chalobah just wasn't aware of that, and he just bent over, re-spotted it.
Sam, I've just got a vision here of you going round Turf Moor going, it's a penalty, and he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing, running round to and tell him he knew what he was doing.
I might have given a penalty initially, and then been told by the VAR that I'd got it completely wrong because there was someone encroaching, and I would have taken that because it's good to get help from VARs every now and again. But I do think that Chalobah was a lucky boy. I think he was just taking a little bit of a risk there.
Sam, just kick it long. Just kick it long.
Just kick it long. Kick it long.
It's the future.
Let's talk about another incident in this game. Badiashile on Estev. Caution, but no penalty. Was the ball in play? And that was a question that Stuart Pearce and I were asking during commentary on Saturday lunchtime. Maxime Estev was attempting to run onto the pitch from the touchline to attack a corner. Badiashile, who was positioned next to the goalpost, blocked Estev's access onto the field while holding onto the post, essentially basically preventing the opponent from joining the attack. He was cautioned by the referee. The decision was to play on and retake the corner kick, but should it be? Because a penalty kick can only be awarded for a foul that occurs while the ball is in play and committed by a defender inside their own penalty area. I do think, actually, if you commit a foul behind the goal line, perpendicular with the penalty area, it can be given as a penalty. Am I right? Because if you're
it all depends. It all depends where the ball is. But if you look at this situation, and I'm really pleased about this because we've seen this season some really good detections on holding and grappling. And what was thrown at me very early in the season is after the international break, the referees ease off. They'll dilute it. No, whoa. No, they haven't. And Peter Banks has been really proactive. It's interesting. I spoke to some fans last week, and what they were saying is they don't like it when the refereeing goes in and warns players. They just like to see penalties given. Well, quite clearly, Peter Banks on this occasion has seen the holding, grappling, pushing, pulling, and he's dealt with it really positively to say, no, it's not happening. It would have been easy to go in and just say, stop. But why should you when the players know what they're doing? So a really positive piece of refereeing for a corner situation in the penalty area. I think, I'll use my phrase again, we're in a good place with these. I think it was positive. I think it's preventative. And he's done a really good job there to say, listen, we're not stopping dealing with grappling and holding at corners.
Okay, so we've got 2 T-shirts now, or maybe just a double-sided one. We're in a good place with handball, and on the back, we're in a good place with
How about
grappling.
a cap and a T-shirt, Sam?
Okay, fair enough. You'll look good in that at the Men in Black convention, won't you? Which would be me, you, and half the referees. In fact, probably they won't turn up after watching this podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate it. That was really good again today. Premier League All Access feed. If you want to listen to the podcast, you can tell all your friends about the talkSPORT YouTube channel. You'll find us on there as we review all of the big incidents and satisfy your craving for explanation, because sometimes there's a lot to unpick.